Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we've got an interesting episode where we'll be talking about a real gem of a watch. And it's a gem not because I think so, but because history says so. Shanghai 7120 watch. So it's not just a pretty watch that costs $28. It's not as simple as that. And I've actually had to do quite a bit of digging to get to the bottom of it. So the Shanghai name on this watch dial, just under 12, and it's written in this cursive English as well as in Chinese. This title traces back to the Shanghai Watch Factory, which in the 1960s and 70s was one of China's most respected makers. Their 7120 model, powered by the Tongji hand-bound movement, became a national standard and remains a collectible today. So the brand still actually exists today, Shanghai Watches, and they do sell their pieces starting at about $150 all the way to a few $1,000s. This Shanghai watch is not that Shanghai watch. Let me try and explain. Okay, so there is the Shanghai Watches now, which produces these modern timepieces. They also restore the vintage Shanghai watches, right? But all of these pieces are genuine and they cost money. And then we have this Shanghai 7120. We get a modern case, a new dial, and crystal housing a genuine vintage Tongji movement, sometimes refurbished, sometimes not. But these are assembled by independent workshops, not the official brand. It's a retro-style homage, nodding to the originals, but with no direct link to the modern Shanghai Watches brand. Essentially, we are buying a new reincarnations of the 1970s Chinese watches. So we're really buying homages, not of the Swiss watches, but of Chinese watches. How cool is that? Anyways, I hope you found this interesting because it took me a while to get my head around thinking, hold on, one logo's here, one is there, slightly different, what's going on? But hey, it's all cleared out now. I get it. I hope you do too. Now, the link to the listing is in the description below the video. Do check it out if you're after a sharp price. And now let's dive in and talk about the details. Let's do it. The Shanghai 36mm 7120 recase is compact on paper, but it has a surprising amount of visual presence. The case measures 36mm across, 11mm tall, and much of that height comes from the dramatically boxed acrylic crystal, slightly domed on top, giving that 1970s dress watch charisma. Lug width is 19mm, and the lug-to-lug span comes in at a well-proportioned 46mm. From the side, the profile is layered and deliberate. The flanks are long, high-polished, and gently arched downwards, which not only softens the stance, but also helps the watch sit comfortably on the wrist. The lugs droop elegantly, tapering to sharp outer tips, crisp in definition but without any harsh edges. This is a hallmark of vintage dress watch casework, poised, compact, and very wrist-friendly. Because the crystal rises so high and the metal surround is minimal, the watch has an almost bezel-less appearance. The lip of the screwed exhibition case back peaks just enough to catch light, balancing the tall front crystal visually. The transition from flank to lug hood is smoothed rather than abrupt, which keeps the flow clean while still holding that mid-century sharpness in silhouette. On the right, there's a push-pull unsigned crown with fine knurling. It sits flush with the flank's height, making it easy to grip without breaking the case line. Winding feels natural, there's no awkward stretch, and setting the time is equally straightforward. And that crystal, being acrylic, it's softer than sapphire or mineral glass, so it will pick up light scratches with wear, but the trade-off is easy maintenance. A dab of polywash or even a bit of toothpaste on a cloth and most marks will polish right out. Acrylic also has a warmth and distortion at the edges that mineral and sapphire crystals simply can't replicate, especially in a box profile like this. It's one of the key elements that makes this piece look and feel authentically retro. The watch comes fitted with a padded, crocodile grain style strap. It's marked genuine leather on the underside and does have that soft, pliable feel you'd expect from a leather lining. The padding gives it body, so it holds its shape on the wrist without feeling stiff, and the stitching is neat and evenly spaced. Width at the lugs is 19mm, tapering down to the polished stainless steel buckle. Simple, unbranded, but nicely finished. The strap attaches via standard spring bars. No quick release here, which is unsurprising at this price point. The polished lip frames the view inside, where the movement sits slightly recessed. Through the display you can see the hallmark bridges and gear layout of the Chinese standard movement, also known as Tongji. Mechanically, this is a 19-joule manual wind caliber, beating at 3 Hz or 21,600 beats per hour, with a 40 to 46 hour power reserve when fully wound. The Tongji design was created in the early 1970s as a standardized movement across multiple Chinese factories. It's simple, robust, and famously easy to service, part of why it powered millions of watches during China's mechanical watch boom. This combination, a fresh case, vintage dial style, and a true period-correct Tongji heart, makes the watch a fascinating hybrid, modern on the outside and historically authentic on the inside. And now let's get on to the center stage of this little gem. Front and center, that tall boxed acrylic crystal isn't just for vintage charm. It also creates a natural magnification and distortion at the edges, drawing your eye into the dial. And what a dial it is. There are 2 variants available, a ruby red sunburst and this emerald green. Ours leans heavily into vintage drama, with a gradient finish, light emerald radiating from the central pinions, darkening to almost black at the outer edge. A fine mini track runs around the periphery in crisp white print, framing elongated 4-sided baton hour markers. These irregular rectangles are filled with a pale green lume and edged in a dark chrome, giving them a subtle depth without overpowering the dial. The hands mirror this construction, slim, dark chrome frames with lume fill, while the second hand ends in a rectangular lume block for quick orientation. Under a lume test, the dial glows brightly at first. It's not the kind of extended performance you'd get from high-grade Swiss lume, but it's enough to read the time comfortably in the dark for a couple of hours. At 12 o'clock, the Shanghai name is printed in both Chinese and stylized English characters. Above 6 o'clock, the Chinese text reads Made in China and 19 joules, a nod to both its origin and the joule count in the Tongji movement inside. The layout is balanced, period correct, and faithful to the aesthetic of the 1970s Shanghai dress watches, even if the case and dial themselves are modern reproductions. Quite interestingly, there is a big following of collectors out there that actually go for the vintage Shanghai watches. Not these remakes, not these reincarnations, but the actual Shanghai watches from the 60s and 70s. But I had a look online, you'll be looking at these, 50-year-old watches, which still go for about $150 to $300. But I'm pretty happy with these ones. I get that original movement and, 40 to 46 hours of power reserve. That's pretty neat stuff. And I really like these designs. So you can go for the dressy style. There's actually another design with this one on the same listing, where this one is obviously the emerald green, but you can go for a deep ruby red, and I think that one is very nice indeed. Anyways, the link to the listing is in the description below the video. Do check it out if you're after a sharp price. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.